Hi, and welcome to another episode of Hot Takes with me, the Silver Fox. We have here one of those lovely little stories where the irony is delicious. And it involves the BBC. And they employ fact checkers. Now, of course, these fact checkers are not really fact checking. They are spin doctoring. They're looking to see where people make claims. And they're looking to try and change the claims to make it more favourable for what the BBC wants as part of its political output. In other words, trying to make it like when someone says it's 51% are in favour of this, they'll go, do you know, almost 50% are in favour of the other thing, and make it as though the other thing is the important one and things like that. It's all to do with spin. And these fact checkers, they're not really, like I say, they're not really fact checking. They're holding a false sense of reality. They are not checking what they are doing. They're only checking what the opposition claims. They don't check themselves. And this is quite obvious when you see what has happened. Because one of these journalists, one of these fact checkers, as they say, lied on their CV. So the fact checkers didn't exactly check the facts then, did they? So we have a journalist who lied on their CV to get this job as a fact checker. I think they should immediately lose their job. It's quite clear that they're not capable of presenting the truth or any kind of factual evidence, since they're liars. Anyway, we'll take a quick look at this. It's not a deep investigation or anything like that. It's just one of those things where I saw it and I thought, you know what, I like that. So here goes. So BBC left red-faced after fact-checking journalist found to have, I never used the word misled employers with CV. Lied is the word that they're looking for there. The embarrassing admission comes from a BBC reporter who is part of the team that hunts out misleading and incorrect information on social media. They're not fact-checking the BBC, they're fact-checking other people, of course, because it's political expediency. They don't want the wrong truth out there. The BBC's disinformation reporter is being accused of fibbing about her experience on her CV. Marianna Spring has made a career of exposing misinformation on social media, but now questions have been asked about claims she made while applying for a job to work as a freelancer in Moscow for a US-based news site, Coda Story. The embarrassing revelations forced Miss Spring to admit she didn't think it would be a big deal, but it was naive and stupid. Never lie when you're a journalist. Firstly, you will get caught out. And secondly, it destroys the integrity, not just of what you write, but of everything that comes out of the organisation for whom you work for. If, for example, let's say the Daily Telegraph employed a writer who was then caught lying, then nothing you read in the Daily Telegraph would be true. If it was CNN caught lying, then nothing on CNN. Any news service where someone is caught lying can no longer be trusted. Most of them you can't trust anyway. But this utterly destroys it. And so you have this thing where this journalist lied on the CV about what she'd done. According to the report, the CV was submitted about 5 years ago. An article in the New European revealed that when she applied to the website's editor-in-chief, Natalia Antelava, in 2018, Miss Spring claimed she'd worked alongside BBC correspondent Sarah Rainsford on covering the perception of Russia during the 2018 Football World Cup. Her CV reportedly claimed June 18 reported on international news during the World Cup, specifically the perception of Russia, with BBC correspondent Sarah Rainsford. However, as disclosed in the New European, Miss Antelava, a former BBC journalist herself, undermined this statement. Miss Spring is said to have sent an email apologising for her awful misjudgment. For awful misjudgment, you mean outright barefaced lies. She's said to have written, "I've only bumped into Sarah while she's working and chatted to her at various points, but nothing more. Everything else on my CV is entirely true." Why should we now believe that? The young journalist added that she was a brilliant reporter, she says, and in their email exchange also admitted there was no excuse. Well, there is no excuse. It goes on a bit. I'm not going to be fussed with that. But what you have here is a BBC fact checker who is now an outright liar. And so nothing you can believe from the BBC fact checking service can be considered truthful because they employ liars. How to destroy your own credibility in one swift move. Hire a liar. Now, let us go one step further with this, because it has been revealed that the BBC is currently has spent so far at least, £100,000 and counting, it's continuing, to cover up the truth, to cover up the papers and the documents relating to the interview with Diana, Princess of Wales, by Martin Bashir. They don't want the truth to come out. Why is nobody fact checking this? Why is the BBC, who employ these people as fact checkers, now covering up the truth, covering up the facts that they say is so important? They stress that truth is important and that facts are important, but they spend £100,000 of TV taxpayers' money to cover up the truth. Why? What are the BBC so absolutely petrified of finding? Is it massive wrongdoing? Is it corruption? Is it illegality? Will people have to go to prison for some of the things that's happened? We need to know. We need to know who's done it, who's signed off on it, what has been done, and what is going to happen. But everything is hidden, is secret, is kept out of sight. The BBC are continuing their utmost and going to court to cover this and protect it. They're claiming journalistic integrity. Well, that only goes as far as not breaking the law. And if the law can be shown to have been broken, then that journalistic integrity clause, which stops various things from being released, doesn't cover it. And that, of course, is why the BBC are fighting this so much, because it could end up with people going to jail. And I personally would love to see various senior people in the BBC go to jail, because we know ultimately they are a corrupt and dirty organisation that push degenerate agendas constantly. They are the wokest of the woke, and they need to go. Can't wait. Anyway, I shall finish there and come up. I will just say, don't pay your TV licence. There's nothing you can do if you don't, I will finish there and come up, and we'll round off this story. But it just goes to show that the BBC, that bastion of truth and integrity, are nothing of the sort. Coming up. For many years, the BBC was seen as something good, something wholesome. It was something the nation could be proud of. It had an international reputation for excellence. That reputation has been destroyed. It will never come back. It is now seen as a dinosaur, something out of time, with a political viewpoint at odds with the vast majority of people in this country. It relies and thrives purely on a taxation for which people have virtually no choice. You do. You have the choice not to pay it. But that taxation is backed up with threats of imprisonment. But there's various ways out of that. And there's many YouTube channels that tell you basically you don't have to pay. And as long as you don't let them into your house, there's nothing they can do. And there really is nothing they can do. They can only get a court order if they have evidence, and they can't get evidence if they don't get access to your property. So just simply don't let them in. And there's nothing they can do. And if we all, to a man and woman and child, refused to watch BBC and refused to pay for BBC, it would soon disappear. It is already increasingly irrelevant. Younger people have basically abandoned it. They show that the average viewer, the average age of viewers on the BBC is increasing every year, because fewer and fewer young people are watching it, because it offers nothing to them. And of course it offers nothing to the older people, because everything is aimed at the younger people who aren't watching it. It's a dying organisation, and it's sad to see because it should be successful. And yet it does shady shit like this. And who's going to come back to it? It's done, isn't it? The sooner it goes, the better. If it wants to survive, it needs to become a pay-per-view, basically. You need a subscription model. And those who are willing to pay for the BBC, quite happy to pay for it, will have the freedom to do so. And those who don't want it have the freedom to say no. Anyway, I shall stop there. Thank you very much for watching. I hope this has earned a subscription. We do need all subscriptions we get because we need to spread the truth, and that is a difficult thing to do. So we need you to help us by hitting the subscribe button and by hitting, of course, the like button, which is equally important. And until next time, stay safe, stay well. And other than BBC weather, I think it's the only thing that's still any good. I watch YouTube. Or Sail the High Seas, ahar me hearties. Bye.